Welcome to day 3 of Ignite. We had the 4th with us on Monday. Yesterday was Cinco de Mayo. I don't really know what today is besides just being Wednesday, but I hope you're having a great week. It's been a great conference. It's been great to have so many customers and partners here this week. Terrific to be in Chicago with such a large turnout and to have the Bulls back in the playoffs with a big game tonight. Thank you for attending our session today. We're going to cover collaborating on files and information within Office 365 groups. We're living in a world where the pace of change is faster than ever. Information is abundant, teams form rapidly, and the pace of the market and open exchange of information leads to quicker and better decisions. Industry studies have found that 80% of collaboration is non-structured, and that 90% of that knowledge is lost within the organization over time. In this modern world, sharing and collaborating are critical success factors, and we need to reimagine productivity in order to remain successful as individuals and as businesses. In this session, we're going to talk about how you could use Office 365 groups with your teams to make them more productive, working together on files and information in this modern collaborative environment. I'm Andy Hayon. I'm here with my colleague Eric Zenz. We're super excited to be here to present this session to you. Let me do a quick rundown of the agenda for this session. We'll cover 4 topics. We're going to do a groups overview and take you through the context that groups is in and the core offering around Office 365 groups. We're going to do a deep dive into files and content in groups, including a long demo through that. We're going to share some details of the roadmap in these areas, and then finally we'll wrap up with a few next steps. The goal of this session is to show you how teams can be productive working with files and content using Office 365 groups. And we also want to provide a look ahead at some of the key investments in these areas for 2015. There have been several other sessions on groups this week. In a sense, this is kind of our public unveiling, and it's a great opportunity for us to be able to have conversations with all of you about the work we've been doing with groups. So we'll be providing links to all these sessions. There's a few more today, and there's been a bunch, and we'll provide links to these sessions, and as well as ways to give us feedback as we go ahead. One final note, we have colleagues that handed out this research form. And this is a way for you to give us feedback on the scenarios and the product features that we'll be talking about today. So if you have a few minutes, please vote early and vote often so we can get your feedback into the product. We've been hearing a lot this week about how the world of productivity has changed. The amount of data being created is enormous and growing faster than ever. Information is more open than ever before. The pace of change is faster than ever before. Decision-making is increasingly pushed to the edges, empowering employees and engaging them in the process. We also have a new generation of workers coming into the workforce who are accustomed to having social networks and smartphones and have grown up with those. Just yesterday, the Wall Street Journal had a featured article about how, with the millennials entering the workplace and as they grow to become the largest portion of the workforce, how the work environment needs to change to adapt. In this type of dynamic and changing global environment, we need to continue to learn and adapt how we work in order to remain successful as individuals and companies. And so in this emerging environment, sharing and collaborating continue to be critical success factors and are even more important. The formation of teams to address a business need has become increasingly dynamic and fluid. It's common today for people spanning organizations, geographies, functions within an organization, even different companies, to need to come together to work on a project against a goal. Discovering the work of others and building on the work that's been done in the past and sharing it through a shared intelligence fabric, finding solutions together becomes a critical mindset to have. We refer to the summary of these trends as the rise of dynamic teams. We used to focus primarily on productivity tools for individuals, but in this information-abundant world, the ability to create value is shifting to the collective. And so we increase our focus on tools that enable rich team collaboration. So we ask ourselves in this process, how do we make it easy for people to work as a collective in real time while also building upon the knowledge of work done in the past. These are some of the key questions that drive the team collaboration work we're doing. Empowering teams to work this way really requires products and solutions that are seamless, offer teams the ability to self-organize, and work fluidly across locations, cultures, and devices. So to bring the promise of this modern workplace, let me introduce you to Office 365 Groups. Groups bring together people, information, and applications across Office 365 to provide a modern collaboration environment that's designed for teams to get work done together. Groups enable users to come together quickly and easily, no matter where they are in the Office 365 suite, to share and collaborate, to discover new information, and to know more and do more together. Office 365 Groups helps your organizations achieve success by leveraging the tools your workers already use and the knowledge that is already in your organization. And it works in a way that your users expect, that leverages expertise from previous projects. Let's talk about some of the key benefits that we see from Office 365 Groups. First, we have a single definition. When we form a team to work on a project at Microsoft, we create a set of assets and we use a set of applications and tools to get our jobs done. These enable us to be productive, but oftentimes we have to define membership across different products and different tools. What's common in all of this is the definition of the team members that we're collaborating with. With Groups, we have a single definition of that team. The tools and apps in Office 365 have awareness of that membership, and it brings together a single shared membership with the right permissions model that we can use across the applications in Office 365, or even in our line of business applications. Office 365 Groups are self-service, so they're enabled for users to create a team and form a team quickly to address a business need. It's common for people across different workplaces, geographies, disciplines to need to form quickly. Groups provides a self-service mechanism for them to create that team membership and get going quickly. Groups are public by default. Today, people in an organization must be able to access, share, and discover information in real time to move things forward. Office 365 Groups are public by default, and this makes it easy for employees to discover and find information, find expertise, and find work that's going on in their organization. It's also very easy for new members to learn about groups that they don't know about, and then join in and connect, tap into the knowledge of expertise. Customers can, of course, create private groups. So, for example, teams in HR or finance who need the ability to work on confidential projects or confidential information have that ability, and they can be confident that the information is protected and secure. If I'm working in a private group, I also have the ability to share with non-members. So in some cases, I might have a team that needs to bring in expertise or bring in a particular person on a conversation or a file or a topic, but I don't want them to be a member of the group. They don't need to have access to all the content, all of the capabilities, and they also may not want to be fully part of that project. But we want to draw upon their expertise or bring them into a particular area, and it's easy to share with non-members with Office 365 Groups. Groups provide a context and history when new members join. So as a team works on a project, information and knowledge is built up within that project. Whether it's the conversations that team members have, or the files and documents that they've been working on, or the meeting notes that they've captured and shared. With Groups, it enables new members to jump right in and get access to all of that information. So a new member who comes in can ramp up very quickly, get context for what's been going on, and understand the work that's been delivered in the group. And finally, Groups are simple to manage. Office 365 Groups is built on the solid foundation of Office 365 services and provides the security and privacy capabilities that you've come to expect from other Office 365 services. With a single definition of groups, it's much simpler for both end users and IT administrators to manage the group and its content. Let's give a bit more color about groups and the building blocks. On the far left-hand side, you see that groups are defined in the Azure Active Directory. AAD is the truth of membership for groups. The group serves as a membership container in AAD, and then the individual applications in Office 365 can make use of that. Much like organizations will have a centralized directory for people, they have a centralized directory for groups with a set of attributes, permissions, and properties and members of that group. And then groups show up integrated in the experiences and applications in Office 365. They're in the applications that customers are already using. In blue here are some of the modern experiences that we'll be able to leverage and expose groups within the application. And then on the right-hand side, we see that applications that partners and developers create will be able to leverage groups as well. We just launched the Microsoft Graph APIs at Build conference last week, and that includes the first rollout of our Groups API. So we expect to see groups-enabled apps starting to power new experiences, building on that membership concept in AAD. And so with this new system, we're able to offer new team collaboration experiences for that modern collaboration environment that I talked about a few minutes ago, and experiences that really weren't possible before. And today, in the production service, many of the experiences are already available to you to use. These are all examples of experiences and services that are lit up and available for groups right now. And so with that, we're going to shift gears and talk about and show what's in the production service. And Eric's going to take us through a demo of some of these capabilities.
Thanks, Andy. Good afternoon. My name is Eric Zenz. I'm a program manager on the SharePoint team. I work with Andy, and we're part of the initiative across Office 365 that brought you Groups. Thanks for attending our session. Welcome to Chicago, and I hope you're enjoying your third day of Ignite. I'm very happy to have the opportunity to give you an exciting demo of Office 365 Groups, focusing on file collaboration and notes. Now, you're asking yourselves, how exciting can a demo on file collaboration and notes be? Well, let's just say that you paid for your whole seat, but you'll only need the edge. So, like many of you, I start my day in email. And when I do, I go there to see the communication that's targeted at me. New to Office 365, I can also see the groups that I'm a member of here on the left. This division helps me focus on the communication that's urgent, that needs my attention now, and gives me the opportunity to focus and dive into the communication going on within my groups. Creating one of these groups is easy. I can click on the plus button over here on the left-hand side anywhere I see a list of groups. And when I do, I get a flyout that asks me not for a ton of information. In fact, the only thing that I need to do to create a group, really, is to give it a name. So when I do that, this name is now my key to interacting with this group anywhere across the suite. With the name Hi Chicago, I can send an email to that group because it effectively it works a bit like a distribution list. I can send mail to it. I can share files to it. I could open up a sharing dialog and enter Hi Chicago. I could even start a Skype for Business conversation or a video chat with that group, just with this name alone. Now, what I'm going to do here is click Create. And after a few seconds, the group will create. There we go. And I'd like to get started with my team. I'm going to invite Christoph. You can see he's here. And just like that, I've been able to create a group to get work done with Christoph that's available to me to access anywhere across Office 365. Now, what I'd like to do today is I'm working in Contoso, and I'm working in the engineering team. And I'm trying to share an update with my team. What I need to do is I need to share some information on human-computer interaction, some new research guidelines that we have. And the way that I'm going to do that is not dissimilar from the way that I would normally do that any other time in the last 15 years. What I'm likely to do, because it's my habit, is I'm going to compose an email and attach a file and send that on to the team. But what's new in Office 365 is the service actually helps me work better. Through a feature that we call Modern Attachments, the service actually steers me to put that file into a collaborative space, either in OneDrive, OneDrive for Business, or in a group or elsewhere in SharePoint. So I'm just going to do that. That sounds like a great idea. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start a conversation here and choose an attachment. And like I said, it's already trying to help me. It's already trying to get me to reuse some recent content out of my OneDrive. It's already highlighting groups here that may have files in them. But because this is a new file, it's new to the service, I'm going to go and select it from my desktop. And again, it's saying, really, please, put this in the group files. It's going to be better for you. And I'll bet it is. So when I click on that, what's happening behind the covers is we're uploading that file into a folder in the groups, among the group's files. And that file is now already in SharePoint. So I can go ahead and add a brief message to that and click Send. And when I do, moments later, the message will come back through to the group. Moments later. Moments later. The message will come back through to the group. Let me just give it a refresh here, just hurry it along. Let me just try that one more time. Oh, it did? That's an older message, actually. All right. Oh, right. Time zone change. Sorry about that. It's 1:30 where we're from. Right. So the file's there. And it just worked. Sorry about that. So anyway, now this file is in OneDrive. Actually, this file is in the group's files. And if I go back here to, actually, let me go back. The file here has been attached. I can see that it's celebrated a little bit more. It has a beautiful icon. It's obviously said that it's shared with OneDrive. And if I want to, I can actually click into this file and get a composite experience where I get the file and the context of the email all together in one place. And what's really powerful about this is if I need to make an edit to that message, that's an edit to that file, and then reply back to the team, which is the thing we always do when we're collaborating on files, I can do that easily here. I hit the edit button, I pull up the file, I can add a quick addition to this doc. You can see Christoph's in here as well, co-authoring with me already. Thanks. And what I can do is I can then let people know the change that I've made. And click Send. So with modern attachments and groups, what I've done is I've actually automated a whole bunch of common document and mail interactions and pulled them together in a really easy, simple to use, and effective way that helps me get my job done faster. Now, I gave you a brief glimpse into the conversation experience here. You can tell that things are a little bit different than what you might be used to in the rest of Outlook. The compose window is a little bit smaller. The conversations read in a slightly different direction, and there's a little bit less header in here. And all that is intentional. What we're trying to signal in groups is that we want the users to be communicating with a little bit more brevity and a little bit more frequency, and also a little bit more openness in the group environment. Now, if brevity is not your thing, that's not a problem, because here we're still in Outlook. I can still go to the Compose window and address the engineering group. and send a mail of any length and of any format. And I can let my rich text fly. When I do that, this will appear back in the group's mail. We treat a normal mail that comes in just as a normal mail. We don't do any other format crunching. So if somebody sends a full long text mail with tables and embedded content in it, that'll all render just as you would expect right here in the conversation window. Cool. If you're like me, you've probably sent a ton of status notes in your lifetime. Typically, I'd send a brief note with an attached file and send that to the team. And you try to do the right thing. You try to put the file in SharePoint because you know you're going to want to reuse it later. Sound familiar? But if you've ever been in a hurry, you've probably gotten one response back to that status message. And that response was?
Access denied?
Access denied. Thanks, Andy. If there's one problem that groups try to solve, it's that problem right there. Groups just make permissions work across the suite in a way that's never happened before and really smooths out a lot of common information worker tasks. Now, let's see how else I can collaborate with my team on files. What I can do to get to this group's files is just use this common group navigation header at the top. And when I do, I land here in and among the group's files. Great. So this set of files is not unlike files anywhere else inside the suite. The files here actually have the same capabilities as they do anywhere else inside SharePoint. I can upload a new file. I can add a new file using the Office web apps. I can open these files and edit them in the Office web apps. All of these capabilities are familiar because this is based on SharePoint. There's actually a site collection that powers this group's document library. New this week, we're actually releasing some capabilities to first release. So if you're a group's user already, my files probably look a little bit different than yours. The first thing that we're releasing is the remainder of document commands that were missing in groups that were otherwise present on files in SharePoint. So notably, before I go in there, notably the recycle bin. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that we had from early groups users was that they were nervous about deleting files. So we brought the recycle bin back to group files. We've reintroduced move or copy as a command on files inside libraries. We've also re-enabled the ability to open these files directly inside of a client without going by way of the Office web apps. And most notably of all is that we've brought the command back in groups to be able to share a file directly with another user or another group. Now, it's our opinion that the easiest way to work together with your team is to invite somebody as a member, and that ensures consistent access to conversations, calendars, files, notes, and other group assets across the suite. Sometimes this isn't appropriate. Sometimes you just want to share, you're in a private group and you just want to share one file. Take, for example, our product team. I'm writing a patent pre-disclosure, and I need to share one file with our legal team. Now, you could say, well, just invite them to the group, but I think for everyone's sake, it'd probably be more prudent to just invite the lawyer to just that one file. So that's now possible. Let me go ahead and show you what this experience looks like. The sharing dialog works as the sharing dialog has always worked. Sharing with an individual like Christoph works like it always worked. But sharing a file with a group is new. So if I want to share the extranet issues with the marketing team so that they're aware of that and can communicate that to our customers, I can do that here. And when I do, I've given permission to Christoph for that doc. Christoph will get an email announcing that he's received access to the doc. But the marketing team will also get a note saying that they've received access to the doc. And what's more interesting is that the marketing team, as an entity, has been given access to this file. The marketing team is a group, so as the membership in that group changes over time, as users come and go from the group, I don't have to do anything on my end to ensure that the new members of the marketing team have access, and the previous members of the marketing team no longer do. So, for another part of my life at Contoso, I need to share a progress update for the quarter. And again, the easiest way to do this to ensure consistent permissions is to put this file in the groups folder. So what I'll do is something I've always done. I'm going to go out here to my desktop, grab my file, and just put it into the group. So like anywhere else in SharePoint, I can drag and drop, I could do an upload, and that file is here. But unlike anywhere else inside SharePoint and OneDrive, this file is now assured to have permissions for everyone in my group. So at this point, what we've shown is that your group's files have the capabilities of any other document library inside SharePoint, plus they have the benefit of sharing membership across the suite. Another improvement that we've made to groups is this notion of showing the files that are shared with us. If you'll remember, for a few minutes ago, I wanted to share a file to Christoph and the marketing team to give them an update on the extranet issues. But if anybody in that transaction would have lost the mail announcing that they had access to the file, they might not know where to go to ever see a link to that file again. So what we did in groups is we created this view called Shared with Us. By simply clicking in from the file view, I can see a list of the files that have been shared with this group over time. Because the expectation is that the files that have been given to this group are files that the group needs to get their job done. They need to be aggregated in and among the rest of the files that we use. So we did that. So we brought Shared with Us here, and that's a really handy addition for getting back to files that have been given to you. The last thing that I wanted to highlight about group files is they're also great at not only aggregating the files that are owned or the files that are shared, but the email attachments that are there. Like I demonstrated through my Modern Attachments demo, we've done a lot of work to steer people to put files into SharePoint. We think it's a better way of SharePoint and OneDrive because we think it's a better way of collaborating in real time around one copy of a document. There's a ton of content that's shared by email attachments, and through using groups, Modern Attachments, and the Modern Conversations in groups, we start to grab that sphere of content that exists in email attachments and bring that in to your group for later reuse, history, and to be able to fight against that 90% of content that's lost to the organization over time that Andy mentioned. Now, let's switch gears and talk about the calendar. The calendar has been demoed in a little bit of length over the last few days. What I wanted to leave you with are two key messages with the calendar. The first is that the group calendars are overlays on top of my own. My calendar is here in blue. The engineering calendar is here in green. The Ignite calendar is here in orange. Any of these group calendars, they don't block any of my availability unless I actually take an action to put it on my calendar. So Alphonse's presentation is coming up here in a few minutes. And so what I'm going to do is add that to my calendar so that I remember to go there, if I can remember that we're in a different time zone. And then, there it is. That was speedy. The other thing that I need to do for my calendar here is another action that I always do that's better because of groups. I have a Q2 review coming up, and what I've done is I've given the team a heads up that in Q2 we are going to see some strong progress against our key metrics, but I didn't show anyone any of that strong progress because I hadn't attached it yet or let anyone know. That's an easily solvable problem using the same patterns that I always do. Today, I would just reply to the message and attach the file. And what's great about the combination of modern attachments and groups in this scenario is that I don't really have to do anything different to leverage all that content that's still that's already with me inside the suite. So I can go and click on the groups. I can find my engineering group, and I can grab that Q2 deck that I was using before. Simply sharing that with OneDrive shares that as a modern attachment, and the recipients will now have all the good news. Right. And like that, everybody's got a link to that file. If I make updates to the file, just like anywhere else in SharePoint and OneDrive, they'll always be using the current copy of that. There's no forking. There's no attachment copies. There's no replying with V1, V2. The group and modern attachments just hold all that together. So let's also switch gears again and talk about notes. Now, in SharePoint 2013, we introduced a concept called the Site Notebook. And the Site Notebook was an amazing feature that we built to help teams in projects collaborate on notes. This is a OneNote notebook that we provisioned in a site by default, and it was available directly off the left nav in the site. And it was great because it's the best of OneNote. It's real OneNote. It's not some rich text thing. It's the best of OneNote inside your SharePoint site. The only problem with this for team collaboration was that you only get exposed to your group's notebook by way of the SharePoint site. And so if you have members of your team that never really go to the site, that only really ever interact with your communications and only ever use a shared calendar in Exchange, they may never know about the corpus of information that's been built up in Site Notebook. We love that concept so much. We love the promise and the delivery of that concept so much that we've elevated the Site Notebook as a capability, a top-level capability in Office 365 groups. So if I go to my engineering group here and just open its card, I can see a list of all my capabilities, including that notebook. Clicking into that notebook opens real OneNote on that shared notebook that's running off of our site, and it's got the group's notes in it. I hope. And there we go. So I can see that the team's been hard at work here. I've had Sam in the deck creating his architecture diagrams for his session yesterday. And if I want, I can open this up in the OneNote Rich client and interact with it even more deeply. Or, like any other shared OneNote notebook, it's available with me across all my devices wherever I go. So the two key points here are that it's always available because it's always available to me no matter where I go in the suite, and that this experience is powered by OneNote. Finally, I'd be remiss in this demo where I've been pumping up the concept of group membership if I didn't tell you about how to add a member to one of these existing groups. So adding a member to a group is just as easy as going to the nav, finding the membership, and clicking to add members. And right now, I'll add Sam. Sam, you in the directory? Let's try to find, Alphonse. He's not in here yet. So I can go ahead and add Alphonse to the group. At this point, Alphonse now has access just like any other member of the group, but the most important part is that Alphonse now can see all of the history of all of the conversations, the meetings, the files, etc., and even some of the history that I created in this session without me having to forward him any emails or bring him up to speed. Alphonse can just wade in the group and take advantage of all the knowledge that we've built up over the last few years. So let's just switch gears to the PowerPoint presentation. And I want to go into a little bit more depth on files and notes. So the important thing to know about files is that every group gets a folder that's permissioned to the group. And as members come and leave from the group, they gain or lose access to this folder, just like they gain or lose access to any other assets in the group. Files that are placed in the folder naturally are permissioned so that all members have access to those files. You can bring files into your team in an easier way than ever before. It's always as easy as adding a file in from the browser. Additionally, we've made it easier to get files into your group by just simply sharing them to the group or transacting them through attachments. Files that are attached to group messages naturally appear in the attachments folder in and among your group files, and mail recipients are always working on the current version of their files. Now, the user experience for groups files are exposed through OneDrive for Business. We think this is valuable because when you approach Office 365 and you want to get to your files, you would accomplish that goal by going to OneDrive. Your work also includes the files for your groups, and so we added the group navigation there on the left-hand side. The user experience is also familiar because it leverages some of those common group elements across the rest of the suite. That shared headers, so you always know you're in a group context, and the shared left navigation, so that you know how to get to your other group's files. The underlying structure, as I mentioned before, for a group is a SharePoint site collection. This site collection powers a lot of the capabilities that we've built inside groups. All of those file capabilities that I mentioned were built by way of promoting them from the underlying site collection. But it's also important to note that the limits for group files are therefore exactly the same as any other site collection in SharePoint. So the storage limit for group document library is 1 terabyte because that's what it is elsewhere. And the same cumulative file limits apply to group files as apply to anywhere else, any other document library inside SharePoint. But enough about the limits. The capabilities are also similar as well. So as I demoed, the file capabilities that you have are the same in a group document library, or will be in first release in about a few days. The file capabilities are exactly the same in a group document library as you would experience anywhere else inside the suite. And as capabilities come online for documents elsewhere in SharePoint, those capabilities will come online in groups too, because they're actually backed by the same infrastructure. Now, I mentioned a scenario of sharing a file to a group and showed that the group now actually highlights content that's shared next to content that's stored in the group. I'd like to present some prescriptive guidance on when it's appropriate to share a file to a group or store a file to a group. And I'll do that by way of example against OneDrive. So in OneDrive, I store a file in my OneDrive because I want it to be mine, I want it to travel with me, and I want to ensure that I always have access to that file, and I alone have access to that file unless I give it to somebody else. So if I'm composing a note on manager feedback on this guy, I want to know that that is private. I want to know that's my file until I'm ready to share it with somebody. But I also, and similarly, when I'm working with a group, the group file is our file. If I compose something like a specification for a new feature that we're working on, I may leave the team, but that doesn't mean I should take the spec with me. The spec is ours, and it belongs to the team, it belongs to the group. So my correct choice would be to put the file into the group. Now, there are times in OneDrive where I do want to collaborate on a file. I have a purchase order, and I need Andy's input on helping me craft the formatting and the language of this order to make sure that it gets through our accounting department. And that's as simple as today in SharePoint or OneDrive, just pulling up the share dialog and adding Andy to it. What happens is we're both collaborating on my copy of the file. There are no forks, and I always have the best up-to-date version. In groups, sharing to a group happens when you want to maintain ownership of the file, but you also want to grant access either for knowledge sharing or for collaboration on that live copy. So Andy's been with Microsoft a number of years, and he's interviewed hundreds, if not thousands, of candidates in this process. He's built up a wealth of information that he wants to share with our program management team. And he can do that just by sharing to the group, like I demoed. Just like I shared the file with marketing, Andy would share the file with program managers. If he chooses to share it for Write, we can even collaborate on that. I can add my tips on interviewing and the questions that I like to use and what I look for in candidates. And we can build up that organizational knowledge. But the file is Andy's. So if Andy went to another team, Andy would want to maintain ownership of that file. And that's why Andy would choose to share a file to a group instead of putting it in the group. Interestingly, we also support sharing a file across groups. Imagine in this scenario that program managers and the project team are actually separate private groups, and they're working together on defining the goals for the next fiscal year. So what happens is the program managers develop this goals framework, and they actually share it out to a number of groups so that the project team can co-author and actually go in there and list their sections and the goals that are relevant to their features. So you would share group to group when the file is actually property of the program manager's group, but needs interaction from the project team. Just to recap a little bit on the OneNote Notebook, we've taken the best-in-class note-taking app, OneNote, and made that a first-class entity inside groups. We promoted the success that we had with the Site Notebook and made it a group notebook to give it more visibility across the suite and connect people in collaboration around that notebook in a better way. Just like my other apps, it blends the OneNote app blends my personal content with my team's work, and my team's notebook will roam with me anywhere I go.
Okay, so that's a great demo and a deep dive into what's rolled out in the group service currently. What we're going to do now is shift gears and talk about some of the things that are on the horizon for content collaboration in groups. First point I want to kind of re-emphasize is we just rolled out groups to 100% of Office 365 in January. So it really is here at Ignite our first opportunity to talk to customers, talk to you in detail. And I think a key takeaway for you to take from this conference is we're investing in a significant way, and it's also the early days of our initiative for groups. At the same time, you can see here at a very high-level roadmap, there's quite a number of capabilities and scenarios that will be coming online this year in 2015 across the work that we're doing for groups. This is not meant to be an exhaustive list, and as we go forward, we'll be sharing more in time. But I think there's some really super cool things coming out. I'm going to talk through some of the work that we're doing. I'm going to demo some of that. But I also want to highlight some of the things that we've seen at this conference. We saw the Skype Meet Now with groups at the keynote demo, and I think this is an awesome way to bring people together quickly and easily and add video into the conversation. Skype's fully supporting groups, and it's a great experience to be able to communicate quickly and easily with your group. Outlook 2016 was just been previewed and discussed at Ignite. In fact, the session that's right after ours, our partners in the Outlook team will be going deep into work they're doing, including some of the work in Outlook 2016. As somebody who lives and breathes and wakes up every day in Outlook and having used that for a while, it's an awesome release of an application we rely upon, and it's got groups deeply integrated into it. So I'm excited about those. I also want to take you through a few things that we're working on in this roadmap, and I'm going to cover some of the experience areas, and then Eric's going to come back and talk about some of the IT admin and developer capabilities as well. Let's start with the ability to create and edit groups. Eric demoed that from the Outlook Online experience, and currently what's implemented in the service is all group creation and editing takes place through Outlook Online. There's a way to get from our experience for files that we surface in OneDrive for Business, but we will take the user to Outlook Online. Since groups are integrated across all of the applications in Office 365, we want to make it really easy to create and edit groups in the process of working. So we're building the similar lightweight way to create and edit groups. And what you see on the screen here is showing an example of that surfacing from within the OneDrive for Business experience. Group creation and editing will be in the preview of Outlook 2016 that I mentioned a moment ago. It will be enabled in a variety of the application experiences. And our goal here really is to make it very friction-free and easy to create groups in the process of working across Office 365, to edit groups. I can get in and I can add members, as Eric showed, very easily. I can see the members of the group. I can add a description to the group or edit the description. So it's a capability that currently is in Outlook Online and will be expanding across all of the group application experiences over time. And this is showing you an example of something that's coming up in the roadmap, and we'll be exposing that in OneDrive for Business. Another, I think, really exciting thing that we've been talking more about at Ignite is Delve. Delve provides a great way to discover content, to find people. It gives me a great way to see a feature that we've just rolled out to first release, being able to see profiles for people in Delve. Similarly, we're enabling groups in Delve. And the first part of that is really to have group discovery in Delve. So here you can see an ability for me in my Delve main landing page to be able to discover a group. And I'm going to demo this and show you what it looks like in an early kind of view of it. This is a really exciting way to get access to groups that are relevant to me and for non-members to discover groups that may be interesting to them. In addition, just like I mentioned, we've built a people profile in Delve. We're working to build a group profile in Delve. This is a great way to enable non-members to see information about a group and then to be able to join groups easily. It's a great way for members to see the activity that's happening with the group and to be able to re-engage and quickly see what's going on so they can be efficient with their time. And then finally, Delve will provide a set of key activities overall, and groups are fully integrated in that. So group data goes into the Office Graph. The Office Graph gets better because of group activities. And the groups can be powered back in terms of experiences for discovery and activity. Another capability that you'll see in 2015 in our roadmap is the ability to add pages as a way for teams to express themselves, to publish modern, responsive web content, to express projects that they're working on, to communicate information out to members and non-members, and overall share content and information that's relevant for them. This provides a great way to author content. We've been talking this week at Ignite about the work we're doing around next-gen portals and the work we're doing around a modern page authoring framework. And we'll be adding this capability to groups in the future. We think this is another way for groups to have a tool that allows them to communicate and be productive and be efficient with beautiful-looking, modern, and responsive web pages. And then finally, we're working on mobile. And this is both in terms of the web work we do is all responsive. In addition, we're working on a mobile application for group conversations and group files. We showed an early preview of that at a session earlier in the week. I'm going to give you a demo of what that looks like. And we think that's an important way to make sure that we're enabling these group experiences in the places and devices that people are working on today. So we're working on enabling group conversations and file access across all of the major mobile platforms, something we'll be introducing and sharing more information with in the future. So let me give you a very early preview of some of the work that we're working on in those areas.
You good?
Okay, good. So here I am in Delve. I'm in the main landing experience for Delve, and you can see if you use Delve, things on the left nav in terms of following. I can see information about me. I can see recent people that I've engaged with. And one of the things that you'll see that's new here is I actually have group information surfacing up in my main landing page in Delve. So this UX design tile, again, just like Delve, beautiful tile, beautiful visual layout, gives me information about a group, the UX design group. It gives me the description. It's all about UX design work. It gives me this signal because a colleague of mine, Mary Baker, I've been working closely with, joined this. And so it provides that access to me for this group. And it makes it a way for me to very easily, if I want to, go ahead and join that group. So that's just right integrated into the Delve experience. Now, I want to actually look for a particular group that we've been working with, the marketing group. We're working on some service releases my team's coming out with. And so I'm going to go ahead and search for marketing. Right in line in search in Delve, the marketing team shows up. And I can go ahead and go to that. And so here what you're seeing is the profile in Delve that I mentioned a moment ago for this group. It's a beautiful page, just like the Delve content. It shows me activity that's going on. I land on information about what's going on in this group. I can see documents. Again, that beautiful full tile layout and full tile experience that Delve provides. Over here on the right, I can see the members of the group. So it gives me a sense of who's involved in this group. Super easy for me to join. And then I can also even add members. Up here in the header, you can see that it's easy for me to join. I can go ahead and do that because that's a group that I've decided that we're going to be working with not just for this service release, but in future. So I'm going to go ahead and join that one. You can see here in the pivots, I have activity. That's where I landed to really get a sense of what's going on in the group. Now, this is a public group. So when I came in, was not a member, but it was easy for me to see information about this group. But if it was a private group, I wouldn't have access to that information. So this group happens to be public, and as a non-member, it's a great way for me to discover groups that are of interest and find content that's relevant to me. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to the profile. And as I said, this is an early preview, so the user design of this isn't final, but we want to show you some of the concepts. So the idea here in profile is that I can see information again about the people of the group. I can see who's available right now. I can see the upcoming events. I can see content that the group's been working on, email conversations that we've been having, as well as quick access to the notes. So kind of a key profile dashboard view of content for that group. Again, this is public. I happen to join, but this is a public group, so there's a difference between private and public information access. But it gives me a really rich way to see information and content to discover new groups and then join them if I'm interested. Now, what I want to show you now is pages. So again, early preview. I'm going to go ahead and tap on that. And this gives you a sense of some of the work we're doing around that modern content authoring framework. Here I go in and I've got a set of pages that I can look at. I can go ahead and take a look at this deep dive item. Has a beautiful image here. You'll see also that I've got embedded content. So there's a PowerPoint deck that's embedded in this page. The author was easily able to create that and embed the content, add description, add information about that as a way to express himself. And so this all works in the context of the group as well. The group can embed content that's relevant for members, non-members, can use this as a way to communicate out information that's key to the group. I can also go into this one and just again see another example of this with a big image and rich content, rich layout, really beautiful, modern, responsive page. So again, just an early preview of some of the things that we're working on in terms of integration for groups into Delve and the ability for groups to use pages to express themselves and add content into the group. So next, we'll switch gears and give you, again, an early preview of the Groups app. Okay, so here I am in the landing spot, and I'm going to go ahead and launch into this app. And this is basically the list view of the groups that are my favorites. Again, early work here, design not final, but want to show you some of the concepts we're working on in our mobile application work. Here I can go ahead and look at the notifications. So it's easy for me to go into the application and get a sense of the notifications and what's going on across all of the groups that I care about. If I go back into the groups, I can see in the list view notifications about new conversations that have been happening. I see that the engineering team has some activity, the marketing team has some activity. I'm interested in Ignite, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into that one. That's been a group we've been using getting ready for this conference. And I can see there's a bunch of conversations going on in the Ignite group. I could go ahead and reply if I wanted to right here easily in line. I can go ahead and do social signals if I want to join for lunch. Excuse me. It is easy to like that. And so a really easy way to stay on top of the conversations for my groups while I'm on the go on my phone. In addition, we've got the ability to access files for that group. So this is showing you a beautiful list view of the conversation or the files that are in this group. I have an image here. I have Excel spreadsheet as example. I have a deck. Down here I've got specs. There's a new sharing model. There's a whole bunch of information in here that's readily accessible to me in the form of the files for the group. So again, early preview of work we're doing to extend groups into mobile devices. We'll have more to communicate this as we continue to progress on this. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Eric to talk about some of the other things that are coming on the roadmap.
Thanks, Andy. We've talked a ton today about groups and how groups leverage a lot of the capabilities from SharePoint to support file and note collaboration scenarios. Let me take a moment to say that sites continue to move forward in SharePoint. They continue to be a place of rich customization, partner integration. Like many other parts of SharePoint, though, they will grow to have group awareness. Now, groups have been built to extend lightweight team collaboration across the suite. So today, if you're working as a team and you don't have a distribution list, you should try a group. And what you'll find is that the single notion of membership across the suite and access to an integrated files experience will probably help you get work done better. And today, if you don't already have a place to put your files for a project you're creating, try a group. And in the same way, you'll automatically get access to a conversation channel to have conversations with the members of your team, a shared calendar, notebook, etc. But if you're a SharePoint user today, you probably already have a ton of project content that exists everywhere across the suite, everywhere across SharePoint. And it's our ambition to make it so that you can leverage this content with your new and existing Office 365 groups. So what we'd like to do in time is to make it so that sites can be added to a group, possibly via the profile that Andy demoed earlier. That in doing that, membership will be added onto your relevant sites, and that on the profile, you'll actually have a link to your site, because that site is a tool that your group uses to get its work done, just like a notebook or a calendar or any of the other stuff that we provision out of box. So there's going to be a lot of work that's involved to make this blended experience smooth and to productize this and bring it into the suite. But I'd like to show you today how you can take advantage of this today using the current build of Office 365 and lend that concept of a group's shared membership to your team site. Let me show you how. So today, I'm here in the suite, and I can go to my Sites tab. And the Sites experience, I don't have to tell any of the SharePoint folks in the room, is the place that I go to connect with promoted links from the organization, as well as sites that I've decided are important enough for me to follow and check back in on with some frequency. Here I have the Operations group. And the Operations group is an existing team site. If you've been around a while, you'll probably recognize a lot of the content of this site. Contoso has had a rich history of having operation departments over the years. And so yeah, here I have a site. It's got a ton of content in it. It's got a ton of customization. It's got embedded pages, embedded web parts on pages and ratings contents, and a bunch of really custom development that makes this site work really well for my team. But managing membership on this thing is a bit of a tax, and so making sure that the membership of this thing is always in sync with the membership of my DL, that's a little bit of a challenge. And as I mentioned before, there are friction cases where people who need access to stuff don't have it, and what we'd like to do is to make that easier. So today, you can just take a site, just like a file, as I showed earlier, and share it with the team. So what it says here is that a group will be invited. I could specify a mail in here if I wanted to. And just like that, The operations site has now, the membership of the operations site includes the engineering Office 365 group. And just as before, as membership in the engineering team changes, I don't need to do anything to realize that on this site. That site will always have the current membership of the engineering team having access to the site right here. So that's a little trick that you can take home. Know that we are working to build a blended experience of this in time. But it's a way today that you can leverage your existing content and that concept of that shared membership across the group, across the suite. So Sam Copps yesterday gave a great hour and some long minutes session on how the administration and extensibility roadmap for Office 365 groups. What I wanted to focus on here are the aspects that apply to a SharePoint audience and the content and notes capabilities inside the group. It's worth noting today that e-discovery is possible with O365 groups. However, it's not exactly as smooth as we'd like it to be, if I'm being honest. It's possible because you can discover against the mailbox and the site, but you have to do that separately. It's possible, but you also need to add the discovery account as a member, which you can do programmatically, as Sam mentioned yesterday. But that's not quite the integrated experience that we deliver for end users. And so we'd like to bring that integration forward in 2015 by creating a unified e-discovery capability so that you can discover and hold against a group in one way without having to treat the mailbox and the underlying mailbox and the underlying site as separate objects. Andy spent a good amount of time talking about the rise of dynamic teams, and groups are a great way of addressing the need of dynamic teams within your organization today. But we also understand that dynamic teams include members that are outside your organization. So in 2015, we strive to add guest membership to groups. There are three important aspects of this that you need to know. The first is that it'll be as easy to add a guest member to a group as it will be to add a normal member within your organization to a group. For the IT administrators in the room, it's also going to be possible and easy to manage guest membership, to allow or disallow groups to have guest members, and then to go in and audit the guest membership or to reattest guest membership on those groups. And finally, the notion of guests will also extend to those sharing operations. So just like other sites inside SharePoint where you can enable guest membership and then enable external users and share files, you'll be able to do that within a group as well for when guest membership isn't appropriate. Dynamic membership. So today, it's possible to create a group with a fairly large membership using the techniques that Sam talked about yesterday. Through PowerShell, you can add hundreds of members at a swath just with a couple of simple lines of PowerShell. But it's hard as an end user to compose, or through the user experience, to compose a large group without adding members manually. What we aim to do with dynamic membership is allow users to compose a rule, such as reports to Andy Hayon or program managers at Microsoft, and use that rule against the directory to create a dynamic and potentially very large membership on Office 365 groups. This will allow people to create more of the groups that otherwise today are sort of managed in AD security groups and very large nested DLs. We're doing a little bit of work for DLP and applying across group mailboxes and files. We're also doing work in quota management for groups. I'm assuming there's a fair amount of SharePoint folks in the audience here. When I talked about the fact that the underlying structure of a group is actually a site collection, you probably were scratching your head about, well, does that consume from shared quota? It does. And how do I manage it? That's what we need to do. We need to deliver capabilities to be able to set limits on the quota to ensure that one very active and very vibrant and very healthy group doesn't put you across your quota limit for your tenant. And lastly, we brought the recycle bin to groups to give end users the confidence to collaborate and not worry about losing any of their data. It's very easy to create groups. We demoed that. It's also kind of easy to delete a group as well through the edit experience. And so we want to introduce a concept called soft delete to make it so that through groups administration in tenant admin, you can go in and restore a group's mailbox and site content through one simple action. Last week at Build, we made a bit of a splash with the Microsoft Graph REST endpoints. So the Microsoft Graph is a consolidated API for interacting with assets across Office 365. What's powerful about this, especially in the group's context, is that you can create an app that reaches into a mailbox and reaches into the file library 2 lines of code apart without having to be a doctor of science in programming against engineering and a master of science of CSOM. The REST endpoints really give developers powerful tools for creating composite applications on top of all of our assets. Now, I'm not a developer, and I don't play one on TV, but there are some examples of the REST endpoints here on screen that show you how to get at the collection of files as well as addressing a file in that library. And the capabilities that are available here are the same as available in the rest of, or they're documented in our REST documentation, and they're fairly rich. They're in previews, so please do try them. Let's recap. So we started off today talking about the rise of dynamic teams and how Office 365 groups help address the changing needs of the modern workplace. We went through an exhaustive demo of groups focusing on file collaboration and notes, notably covering the way in which files are structured and how they're stored as a site collection and how they're exposed through the OneDrive for Business UI. We talked about the futures. Andy demoed the Delve experience and the Delve profile and how activity helps people engage and reconnect with content inside their groups, how pages help groups and organizations put forth their best face, and Andy demoed the file capabilities that are going to come to market through our Groupies app with the Exchange team. And then lastly, I talked about groups' position vis-a-vis team sites and how team sites continue to be an area of investment and will leverage the membership of groups. We talked a little bit about the content administration and shared some about the programmability that's available through the REST endpoints. If you have a little bit more time today and you want to learn more about groups, I urge, nay, I plead, I implore, I compel you to go to the Evolving Distribution Lists through Office 365 Groups presentation. There, Alphonse and Maidali will do a parallel session to this that has more of an exchange bend. They'll talk in depth about the group's email, the group's calendar, and they'll also spend a good amount of time talking about the relationship of distribution lists and groups. And then there's a community-led session tomorrow on when to use what, when to use groups or team sites or Yammer or other assets. It's going to be really exciting. Those folks have put together a great presentation, and we'll be there as well. And lastly, if you want to learn more about external users and external sharing, attend Sarat's session tomorrow on sharing. Now, I arrived to Chicago in an airplane, proudly in row 33E. But if you arrived here in one of these, then you'll want to check out some of these. These sessions have all happened in the past, but for the tape, it's important to note that this session builds on the O365 Groups overview. And if you have questions about the relationship of groups and Yammer, that was probably also covered in the Yammer roadmap as well. Sam's presentation yesterday also on the deep dive on groups will tell you all about customizing and extending and using PowerShell to interact with the groups. It was a great talk. Finally, if you haven't already, sign up for Office 365. In Office 365, you'll get the ability to interact with groups as well as a number of brand new and exciting features like Delve. Use groups, and when you do, please give us feedback. There are two places we really love to get feedback. The first link is for our user voice. That is a social feature request hotline. You can go in there and request features and upvote or downvote. Or actually, you only get to upvote. But you can go in there and vote on features that you think are compelling. We're out there weekly triaging those, and it really does help drive product decisions. The other one is the Office 365 IT Pro Yammer Network. We have a group in there for groups. And if you want to have a richer discussion with us, please do. So that's it. Join the conversation. And please, as Andy said, vote early and vote often. Do give us feedback on this session. It helps us improve. I want to thank you very much for your time this afternoon. And run, don't walk to Alphonse's session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. One last plea for fill out this form, and we'll be up here answering questions as well until they kick us out if anybody has any additional questions. Thank you very much.